Abortion has been arguably the most polarizing, heated, and controversial civil rights issue since 1973, when abortion was legalized in the US. There is so much passion on either side of the topic, and seems to be no middle ground and virtually no humane conversations. So much anger and so much hate. In the midst of it all, we truly believe that love is the answer. Instead of pro-life or pro-choice, is it possible for us to be pro-love? Is it possible for us to love both the mother and the baby? Maybe the answer isn't either or, but rather both. I have my personal convictions. You have yours. We're all so different, and that's okay. But where is God's heart at? Where is the truth and peace amidst all the chaos and lies? We want to go on a journey to find out the truth, and to find out how we could actually help and make a difference, instead of just adding more noise to an already deafening discussion.
So what if you're watching this and you're thinking, should I keep my baby even though it's too hard? As a matter of fact, I was in that position. I was 19 when I got pregnant with Everly, and I remember just being so scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was actually in school in college, and I was too scared to tell my family. I was too scared to tell my friends. It was just a lot for me to take in, being so young. I remember those moments just being so terrified of just like what the future would look like, what my life was gonna look like. Just so many things going through my head at that moment, and just knowing how hard it was gonna be, but ultimately in the end, how worth it was gonna be looking back now. I know for me personally, my choice was always to keep my baby, but I also know that for others, there are choices.
Don't lose heart, His strength will still come. At the end of your wanderings, you'll see the grace that He giveth and giveth and giveth again.
In America, over 2,000 abortions happen every day.
Every day in America, 100 people die in car accidents. 1,300 people die from smoking. 1,800 people die from heart disease, the leading cause of death in the US, according to the CDC. But there's another, even more deadly killer than heart disease.
By definition, abortion is when a pregnancy is ended so that it doesn't result in the birth of a child.
So as we've been filming this documentary, we've been asked by our friends, by family, by mentors, why are we making this? There's so much at risk. Why are we even making this? Why are we adding flame to an already crazy burning fire? And the answer is just, if one baby is saved from this, if one mom chooses to keep her baby from it, then it's all worth it. This documentary by no means is trying to illegalize abortion. After this documentary, you're still gonna have the choice.
Yeah.
You're still gonna have your choice. But I know that there's gonna be one mom watching, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 100, maybe 1,000. We have no idea the ripple effects.
But just for you guys to know all the resources out there, and also for us as a church, and just me and Cole even, just that how much more we need to be doing.
We want to go into this finding out what resources are available for women that you might not know about. Are there resources, in your city? If not, is there something that the church should be doing, that you watching should be doing? Maybe you aren't pregnant. Maybe you aren't the one facing the question of whether I'm going to have an abortion or not, but you're thinking, what more can I do? How can I better help? How can I better stand with these women and for these women? So we're going into this thinking, how can we help more? What more can we do? And I'm excited to find out.
Yeah. So what happens during an abortion?
In private practice, I performed just under 1,200 abortions, including first and second trimester abortions up to 24 weeks of gestation.
So I feel like one of the most important questions that everybody asks is, when does life begin? And if we had a direct answer, then I feel like this wouldn't even be a conversation, because if we could all agree that life began at a certain point, then abortion should be allowed before that point and not allowed after. In your professional opinion, when would you say life begins?
It's such a simple question with such a complicated answer. A human egg is fertilized by a sperm, and that is a single cell organism that has a unique genetic makeup. That is the first. So at fertilization, you have a living cell that has that unique genetic pattern. So on that basis, human life begins at fertilization.
Yeah.
But a lot happens after that. It gets complicated, but I really do believe that a human life, that individual human being with that unique genetic signature starts at fertilization. People think of doctors as so smart. We're no different than anyone else. When you figure out here, not here, that killing a baby this big for money is wrong, it doesn't take you too long to figure out it doesn't matter if the baby is this big or even this big. It's all the same.
I love what Dr. Levatino said, that whenever we start saying, like, at what size is it a human baby, it's like, well, what size is a human? You know, whenever you realize that a baby this big, and this big is a baby, it doesn't matter if it's this big or this big. Mm-hmm. You know, like if we're going based off of size, our baby in the womb right now, she said, was like as, you know, the tip of my finger, but we saw little arms and legs on our ultrasound.
And the baby was moving around.
The baby was moving.
Her lips, and she's resting, just chilling with her arm up right there.
Of course she is.
We're excited to sit down with Dr. Kathy Altman and hear her story on this topic. So I feel like a lot of people watching or listening might not know how abortions are performed, you know? I think you hear pro-choice and it sounds right because it's like, oh, well, the mother should be able to decide whether to keep or not keep, but they don't understand what not keep means.
Well, most people don't realize it, but any OBGYN has to learn how to do abortions in their residency program. You can opt out because of conscience, but I didn't because I was really very pro-abortion. I had had an abortion myself, and I didn't think any woman should have to bear a child she didn't want. In our training program, we learned how to do first trimester abortions, but I was so gung-ho that I went outside of the program and got one of the local abortionists to show me how to do D&E abortions, which are also known as dismemberment abortions, where you literally take the baby apart piece by piece to remove it from the uterus. In the first trimester, that involves putting some local anesthetic in the cervix, and after you have the opening large enough, you insert a little tube and you go around just like a little vacuum cleaner and suck out the pregnancy. And the baby is sort of torn apart as it's going through the hole because it's bigger than the hole, and then the placenta goes through. And then you check to make sure there's nothing left, and that's the end. And then for second trimester, it's a little bit more involved. Oftentimes you have to dilate the cervix ahead of time, because if you try to mechanically dilate the cervix, it can lead to damage to the cervix. Then you just reach in with a heavy-duty clamp and grab whatever you can grab, an arm or a leg usually, and as you're pulling it through the cervix, the body's too big, so it's not going to come, and so with enough traction and twisting, the arm or the leg comes off. And you do that until you've got everything you can, and then you have to reach up and try to crush the bigger parts, so like the chest, and eventually the head, and then you just bring them out in pieces. You can tell when you've crushed the head because the white brains leak out.
We need abortion to save women's lives. Hear it all the time. For 9 years, I worked at a medical center where it's what's called a tertiary referral center. It's a hospital that is equipped with the doctors and the equipment to take care of high-risk pregnancies. We don't do this in every hospital because it's too expensive, so we have centers where this occurs all through the country. And where I worked was a tertiary referral center. And for 9 years, as a pro-life obstetrician gynecologist, I worked in a medical center like this. I saw it all. I mean, severe heart disease, cancers, out-of-control diabetes, preeclampsia. I mean, these are dangerous pregnancies. Pregnancy can be very dangerous. But there's a point to be made about this. We need abortion to save women's lives, really. The vast majority of times that a pregnancy becomes dangerous to a woman with many of these conditions, there are a few cases early in pregnancy, we can talk about those, but the vast, vast, vast number of these cases occur after 22 weeks when the baby's viable. I have as a pro-life obstetrician gynecologist and almost 10 years of experience in a tertiary medical center, I have terminated, i.e. ended, hundreds of pregnancies to save women's lives. How many babies did I have to deliberately kill in the process? None, not even one. It's called delivery. When the lady comes in, for instance, with that preeclampsia patient, 27 weeks pregnant, real case, her blood pressure is 220 over 160. And we've got to get her delivered now because the only way to cure preeclampsia is to end the pregnancy. We're going to deliver this baby by cesarean section because it would be fast. I can do that within an hour. And we're going to take care of the both of them, and we're going to just have to leave it in God's hands. And we did exactly that. We stabilized her, delivered her, and she and the baby ultimately did great.
So I had no idea. I had no idea that's what went on first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. And I feel like it's so necessary for people to know.
Yeah.
Because I think that if this is what's going to happen, the media and news outlets and people can just downplay it.
Yeah. And even with like the little bit that I did know, just hearing it from him and hearing his stories and just the details of it was such a different experience, just hearing him say that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And it opens up your eyes, you know? Like you hear the word abortion and I feel like it's become so normalized, and I'm glad that we can have conversations about it, but like where's the truth at?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is here's someone who's performed 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
You know, instead of someone telling you, you know, what they think it is, or like you hear all these different, I don't want to say lies, but you just hear all these different variations of what an abortion is. Well, let's just go to the source.
Yeah.
You know? And like you go to the source and it's like, okay, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So here's a crazy thought. I would not be here today if my grandma did not choose life for my mom. As a matter of fact, her story is wild. I sat down with her to talk about it. You're about to hear it, but her story is so beautiful because it shows the generational impact of choosing, yes, I'm gonna keep this baby.
Well, when my mother was around 18 years old, she found herself pregnant and with no family except a brother that would take her in and take care of her. And she delivered me and kept me for 4 months and really wanted to keep me. But times were very hard in 52, and she was a waitress and I was sick and trying to afford to take care of me and take me to the doctor. There wasn't a lot of help back then for any kind of supplements or anything, so she chose to give me up. But first good choice was she chose to let me live. And so I was adopted into a wonderful family. When I was 16 years old, my mother that raised me died of a massive heart attack, and that really, it almost destroyed me. And so I ended up pregnant, and the young man that got me pregnant and his dad really wanted me to get an abortion, and really was set up to force me to have an abortion. And As far as I know, it was planned, and they were there to put me in the car and take me. And my daddy, he ran them out of the yard and made them get back in their car and wouldn't let me go with them. And so my daddy took care of me, and I had my beautiful little girl. So I was 17 when she was born, and we kind of grew up together. I was never sorry. I was never sorry. Even though I was pregnant without being married, I just was never sorry. And the minute you hold that baby and look at that baby, everything that you went through that was scary, it just goes away, you know? It goes away.
I'll forever be grateful for my granny's decision. If my grandma did not decide to keep my mom, not only would I not be here, but my kids wouldn't be here. And one day, my kids' kids, and my kids' kids' kids, and so on. Saying yes to keeping your baby affects so much more than you could ever imagine. It's so important to rally around these women in a time where they feel so vulnerable. In my granny's case, it was her dad who was able to chase off these men. And I'm thankful for my great-granddad, who I never even got to meet, because if he didn't chase them off, I wouldn't be here. So there's so many little pieces that we just need to rally around these women to remind them, even if it's just one person saying, hey, you can do this. Hey, I'm here with you. It's gonna be okay. We found a ministry called Embrace Grace, and this is exactly what they do every single day. Amy Ford, the founder, is determined to help scared pregnant women be brave.
In the church, the abortion rate is exactly the same inside the church as it is outside the church. There's no difference. So these women are sitting in our pews and scared, don't really know what to do. And even with my own story, I went to church every single week. I did it not cross my mind that I'm pregnant, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll go to the church and ask for wisdom, guidance, prayer, support, something. Like, it's the last place you want to go to. So we started Embrace Grace as a pro-love movement where we want the church to be one of the first places a girl runs to instead of the last because of shame and guilt. We want the church to be like an oasis and a sanctuary for these women, that if they're scared and they don't really know what to do, then we want the church to be a safe place for them. And then also, you know, if they end up choosing abortion, we don't want them to, but if they do, we believe the church should be a safe place for them too, to go to as well, for healing and for healing support groups. But we started Embrace Grace, and it's for women with unexpected pregnancies to find hope, community, support. They meet other girls going through the same thing that they are. There are support groups all over the nation, so any church can just press play and have this digital amazing curriculum. And then pregnancy centers, or even just word of mouth, they send these girls that are struggling with an unexpected pregnancy, and then they get to, they're not alone anymore. They feel heard, they feel loved, and they meet other girls going through the same thing that they are. They might all have super unique stories, but they all come together with this common bond of not expecting to be in the situation that they're in right now.
After a conversation with Amy, we were just so encouraged and blown away by all the resources available. In fact, you can actually click the link in the top of our description box down below, type in your zip code, and just get involved right away.
So what if you're pursuing your dreams, your career, you're going to school, and then an unexpected pregnancy happens? What do you do?
So we actually got to sit down with Shanice, who was faced with those exact same circumstances. And this is what she did.
I didn't really grow up in the church. I started, having a relationship with God probably like 14, 15, but it became real for me. And then I ended up moving to, Texas about 8 years ago. And so while I was here, I started to feel like lonely in a lonely season. There was a lot of things that happened since I had moved to Texas. At one point I was in a homeless shelter for a few months. I just started showing out, talking to all the guys. One of my friends, she was in college. I was coming back from her thing that she had going on. And I just felt so sick. I'm the type of person that, I'm not finna wait it out. I need to know what's going on right then and there. So I went to the emergency room. I remember the doctor just came on out like it was just normal. He was like, "Oh, you're sick because you're pregnant." And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And so I remember just, crying. I don't even remember not crying. I just cried the whole time I was there. And then, I just sat in the car, just literally sat in the car in tears. And I just remember, sorry, I'm just so annoying. So I just remember just looking at my phone and just looking up, abortions and stuff like that, places where I should go and how much it costs. And I just remember my eyes being so watery that I could barely read what it said, because I was just so sad. What are people gonna think? What is my mom and them gonna think? I remember going to a pregnancy center. I remember they had a love in the box, and it was from Embrace Grace, and inside of it had a onesie for my boy, and it also had a necklace, little invitation to get a necklace, and it was a pro-love necklace. It was so sweet. It was just a lot of love, and it really made me feel so special. The day when I was in the car and I felt hopeless, and when God said that trust me, He had already had Embrace Grace lined up. He's so good. They had baby showers for us, and it was beautiful because it was gifts and all these things. My son didn't need anything. God took care of me completely. God was just providing. He was answering the prayer that He said He was going to do that night in the car when I felt by myself. And He's been doing it ever since. Because, one of the things that Embrace Grace, say, they have a lot of things that they say, pro-love, help her be brave, stuff like that. But one thing that they say that I don't think people really grasp is you can have your baby and your dreams too. And I feel like that's one of those things that people hear and they don't really understand what that means. And so for me, I feel like I'm a prime example of that. Me choosing to have my baby. Now I just launched my business. And so not only am I, a single mom that chose life, but God is now transitioning me to being a boss chick. And I love that. So I launched my business in May. It's called Bomb Moms. And I love the name because it inspires me being a mom and the things that moms go through and stuff like that. And I make luxury handmade bath bombs. And so it's something so simple, giving people opportunity just to relax and feel valuable, feel taken care of, because that is what God wants us to feel. And that you really can honestly have your baby and your dreams too.
We absolutely loved our conversation with Shanice. Her personality is just so infectious, and we know that she's just gonna go on to do such incredible things. She's already doing incredible things. She's the perfect example of being able to have your baby and your dreams too. She's pursuing this Bomb Mom's career, and we just wanted to invest into that and sow into her because she's doing it right now.
Yeah.
One story that stood out in particular was the story of Dana. She was homeless, living out of her car, raising her kids literally out of her car. And she was just in a tough spot. Life was really hard. And we just feel like if she can do it, then anybody can do it. And we really want you guys to hear the story for yourself.
We had been sleeping in the car. I had a Dodge Journey with the back. It had a back on it, so we had room to put bins of clothes in it. Well, you never know what things happen, Just like I thought I would never be homeless because I work. And there it is, there's no money. So I just lost it all. The church who helped me with my pregnancy, they referred me to Embrace Grace. And I remember I went there and I was just so down. I mean, I'd never been this down in my life. And I started going to church and Embrace Grace, and I never met these women, never. They weren't high school friends of mine. They were just people that was there, that God put there in that place at that time that I needed, And I went there, and then the first day, I never seen love like that. People excited about you bringing in a baby, no matter what the circumstances was, You don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
because that's what I was just so afraid. And my biggest thing is looking at my 7-year-old son that I did not know, like, how life would turn out. Me thinking that it could have been a possibility that he would not be here, that just breaks my heart. Because he was supposed to be here. He is funny, he is just, like, it was the last edition. It was just everything I needed to complete myself, you know? I couldn't imagine life without him. And to think that I would have been so selfish to think, you know, oh, I don't want to have another baby. Why? Because I'm so afraid. I like to shop. I like to do this. I like to do other things. I don't want to be a single parent tied down with another kid, worrying about, you know, what the world, how they view me or how they judge me or, you know, look at me as, you know, but they don't know my story, you know. Like, my kids are my rock in my world, and I just thank God that he put people in my life and in place and at the right time.
So after hearing Dana's story, Savannah and I both just felt led to give her a gift. We weren't expecting to do that, but we were just so encouraged and motivated by her story that we knew that we had to act on this. So I just want to encourage you guys that if you ever felt led to help anybody in any way, even if it's not financially, you can help with your time or anything, you should always act on that.
If you need help or just somebody to talk to, keep in mind that pregnancy centers are located all throughout the country. These facilities are completely free and are filled with people that are dedicated and ready to help you figure out your next steps. From an ultrasound all the way to the diapers or food your baby might need. Just remember, you are not alone.
To think that there's so many of these places readily available to assist and help these women blows our minds, but we all need to step up and help because these places are free and just offering all these resources, and they run off of donations. I encourage you to get involved with the local pregnancy center to see how you can help potentially donate at these centers.
One way that we felt led to help was actually to throw a baby shower for this girl named Gypsy. She was amazing, so sweet. We actually got a bunch of our friends, a bunch of the church to gather around her and throw her a baby shower, and we actually fulfilled basically her entire registry.
This was just such a beautiful example of a community coming together to love one person, and I feel like so many people say, well, if you can't do something for everybody, then I don't want to do anything for anybody. But what we want to say is we want to do everything for somebody, but we wish we could do for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it was just a beautiful orchestration of what we felt like to do for this one person, and we want to do more of it.
Yeah, and encourage us to do more.
We want to encourage you to get involved, maybe not throw a baby shower if that's not what you're capable of,
Yeah.
but you're capable of helping in some way.
Yeah.
Aside from Dr. Anthony Levatino, what would you say to a young woman who comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, I'm thinking about having an abortion, what do I do?
A caution for the audience. Don't ever, ever talk about an abortion as being a convenience. That so-and-so had an abortion because it's the convenient thing. Pregnancy is not convenient. Never, ever say that. Understand that women who are contemplating abortion are under tremendous stress. They are worried about their education. They are worried about their finances. They don't want mom and dad to know she's been having sex with Johnny. Whatever it is that's driving her, there are powerful forces and powerful things within her mind driving her to consider an abortion. And it's very important when you're talking to someone in pregnancy who's contemplating an abortion to keep that in mind, to understand and be empathetic about the tremendous stress that she's under. When those situations arise, I would do my best to understand her situation by talking with her, understand what was driving her to that decision. I understand that you're worried about finances, and I understand that you're worried about your education, and I understand that you're worried about the impact on your life in the future. I understand that you may not feel able to provide for your son or daughter in the future. But I want you to understand one thing. There is something that only you can give your son or daughter, and that is the chance to live, the very same chance that you have to enjoy life. Only you can provide that to them.
Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. Don't let life scare you. And if you have God in front of you, there's nothing that can scare you.
I know that this whole documentary is obviously centered around the mom and her baby, but obviously there's a father. There's a father somewhere, and I feel like in every one of these stories, the father was absent, the man was absent, and he's just not involved. He takes a back seat, takes a step back. It's just easier that way. You know, it's harder to take a step forward and say, wow, I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't ready, but I'm gonna be here with you. I'm gonna rally with you. It's already hard enough as is for a mom to do this, let alone being alone. So I feel like as men, we need to step up. We need to rise to the occasion whenever something that maybe seems unfortunate and difficult at the time could come to be one of the greatest blessings in your life. After walking into Embrace Grace and talking with Amy Ford and seeing their team and hearing all the resources available, I just felt so encouraged and so relieved that wow, people are being the front runners. People are doing this. Because you know, you think, why aren't people doing more? Why isn't there enough? Why isn't there this, and this? It's like, oh, there is. I just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it.
We just had no idea.
You know, and I think that that's the problem is that people just don't know. If we didn't know, and here we are making a documentary about it, how do we expect teenagers or young moms or other people who just aren't even looking for these resources to know?
And what I really love about Embrace Grace is the community that you get. Like, I thought that was so awesome. They just get this community of moms that are going through the same exact thing that they are. They get to talk about their struggles. They get to help each other. They're now friends. Just the community alone, I feel like having that when you're newly pregnant and you're scared and there's so many things going through your head is so powerful for them.
And what's so cool is that they aren't just in this community whenever they're pregnant. They stay in this community for years and years and years and years after their pregnancy, and then so many of these women go on to lead a group of their own. So it's just so cool to see. A question we get faced with a lot when we talk about this is, you only care about life inside the womb. What about life outside the womb? And I agree with that question. I think it's a very valid question, and it's a question that it makes us look into ourselves and say, what are we doing for the life outside the womb? Because there is so much. You know, there's an overburdened foster care system, there's homelessness, and there's all this stuff, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And fortunately, we got to participate in an event called One Day LA, where at this One Day LA, over 20,000 people just got to go and serve and love the city. They got to eliminate millions of dollars in medical debt and furnish homes where kids were literally getting taken by their parents because they didn't have furniture, just for the simple things. And families got to stay together instead of getting their kids put into foster care systems, and just clean up the city and serve the homeless community. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and this isn't just a one-day thing. They're wanting to do this in so many cities across America, and you're thinking, wow, I want to get involved with that. And I feel like it all starts with just a question of, why don't we have this? How can we do this? And I feel like every solution starts with a question, you know? So ask the question, get it started.
We just want to encourage you to click the link below and get involved with all the resources with Embrace Grace. Don't be afraid. It's nothing to be ashamed of. They're there to love you. We're here to love you. We just want to help.
We learned so much in the making of this documentary, and obviously we have so much more to learn. We hope that this is only just a start, just the ripple effects. We don't know what's to come from it. There's so much more that we can personally do, that I know you watching can do. I feel like our nation just loves to divide us, that you're either this or you're this, but I just want to start a conversation and just be like, what can we both do? How can we both get more involved to rally around these women and to help them and to love them and to serve them better? So while we were in Texas, we sat down with Israel Jones, who actually went through with an abortion, to later find out a few months later that she's now having this miracle baby. And it's just one of the most insane stories that we've ever heard, and something that you have to hear for yourself.
I started dating this guy that I was very much in love with, and he, you know, we got pregnant. His response was just like, oh, well, it's 2020, you know, like we can't do this, you know, we can't have a baby right now. He was just like, well, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. You know, I'm gonna leave the decision up to you and everything. But we weren't even fighting or anything. He just got up and left, just left. And I was heartbroken. Like, I went ahead and made the rash decision, like, you know, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna just get it over with, and I don't wanna think about it. I just wanna get it over with and get back to what I was doing, get back to life, you know? I followed through with the Planned Parenthood stuff, and I did attempt an abortion. They gave me the pill, and, you know, I went home. They sent me home to do this abortion by myself, which that was like, wow, I gotta go home and deal with this, you know, on my own. So that night, I had an abortion. You know, I lost something. And then shortly after that, my body was like trying to heal, you know. So 3 months went by, I was working and everything, and all these weird changes were happening with my body. I finally was like, I need to go to the hospital and just see what's going on. So I did, and I told them everything that happened, and they put a little ultrasound on me, and they said, looks like you got a 5-month-old baby in you. And I'm like, what? How? Like, how? That's not, like, I was just blown away. And I felt so shameful, you know, I felt so guilty. I am just so blessed to have this beautiful daughter. She's so perfect. And I literally cried tears of joy when she came out of me. Like, I couldn't believe how beautiful she was, how perfect she was. I was so stressed out and worried because I was like, oh my God, I took this pill. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, what if my baby's like, something's wrong with my baby, you know? But God, He just made her perfect. I know that when she grows up, she's gonna know that she was meant to be here and that she's loved and that I did want her, you know? And like I said, God heard my prayer and He redeemed me, you know? He was like, you know what, you are worthy, you can do this.
Insane baby fever. Especially when they're this cute.
Your grace will be enough.
He's so cute, huh? She just loves everybody.
When my eyes can see.
So after just holding her baby and being around her and hearing her story, she was just a total miracle. And it's crazy just to see the miracle in person.
Yeah.
You'll see the grace that He gives.